All right, so today we're going to talk about intelligence, and I believe that we've already started this in class with both classes, but we're just going to go ahead and get after it. These are your learning objectives for intelligence. I'm going to skip to this. And so we're just going to go ahead and get after it and talk about the theories of intelligence. So when we discuss the theory of intelligence, what you need to understand is that there's going to be four theories. And the first theory is general intelligence, and that is created by Charles Spearman, which you can see him on the left here. And he explains the G and S factor. And so overall, he believed that intelligence levels like overall intelligence and reasoning and ability were known as the G factor. The G stands for general. Okay, and then he also believed that task-specific intelligence was known as the S factor. So he said that he believed people had general intelligence and then they could have task-specific intelligences as well. Now, theory 2 is going to be multiple intelligence. Now, this is created by Howard Gardner. The main dispute concerning intelligence ability with Howard Gardner is that he is going to say and dispute that there is a claim of a single intelligence ability, like people are just intelligent. He's going to say no, people have multiple intelligence levels, and so he's going to create the 9 intelligence levels, okay? So the first one is going to be interpersonal intelligence, which is sensitivity to the feelings of others and understanding the motivation of others. That's why I put a picture of Freud, because if you're able to understand why people react and behave a certain way due to the underlying things that have occurred in their life, then that means that you have interpersonal intelligence, interpersonal skills. When we talk about intra, you need to think of yourself. And that's being able to understand one's personal emotions and how they guide your own actions. So I always like to put the word self-aware. Then you have visual and spatial intelligence. Usually that's the ability to understand how objects are oriented in space. I think of artists, architects, interior designers, because they can look at a room and figure out what will fit and what will look beautiful in a room. And so that's why I put a painting in the background. And then we talk about verbal linguistic intelligence. Is pretty much the ability to effectively and stylistically use language. So use MLK Jr. because he gave the I Have a Dream speech, and JFK won a presidential debate, the first televised presidential debate, because he was well-spoken. But both of these people were great orators as well. And then we talk about musical and rhythmic intelligence. Is the ability to compose or perform music. There are people who have a mindset that leans more towards them being musically inclined. Then we talk about logical and mathematical intelligence, which we have Albert Einstein here, because they have the ability to think logically and solve mathematical problems. There's logical people. You have body kinesthetics intelligence, which is pretty much the ability to control one's body motions. And so I always relate it to sports and athletics and dance and cheerleading and things like that, because they have like a great sense of control over their body and their actions, and they're able to move them fluently to accomplish a goal, whether it's throwing a baseball or it's doing a plie and jumping in the air like this young lady over here. Also, there's the naturalistic intelligence, which is like the ability to recognize patterns in nature. So I put Steve Irwin on there and Jane Goodall. Also, you can also think about Penny, who was a caregiver to Coco the gorilla, because they have a sense of nature, and they relate to other animals in the animal kingdom, because we're still animals, but they have more of a heart for nature and they gravitate towards nature. Then you have the existentialist intelligence. This is pretty much like the ability to see the big picture of the human world. And they also ask questions about existence and the purpose of humans. I always think of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the Greek philosophers, because they kind of could envision the bigger picture. I always think of people who are able to, yes, understand the here and now, but to try to view the longer and, things that are going to happen in the future. So they always think about how the present will dictate that. The third is going to be emotional intelligence theory. So Daniel Goleman's going to create it, and pretty much what he's going to say is that emotional intelligence, it can matter more than IQ. And here's why. Because he believes it's the ability to understand, perceive, and control the emotions of self and others. So he says that if we are aware of other people's emotions, if we're aware of our own emotions, and we have an intelligence level that deals with that, then we can survive and function better in society. So he believes it's very important for you to be able to pick up on other people's emotions and react accordingly, as well as being in tune with your own emotions and understanding where they come from. So I kind of think that plays into being self-aware. And then the last theory is going to be the triarch theory of intelligence, which is by Robert Sternberg, and there are 3 parts to this intelligence. And so when we talk about it, it's going to be practical, analytical, and creative. So practical is going to use information to get along in life and become successful. Analytical is going to break down the problems for analysis, and creative is going to deal with new and different concepts and generate novel ideas of thinking. So I think practical, I think of how to solve and be successful and get through life. Like being practical is like, oh, I have to graduate from college, I need to get a job, and I need to pay my mortgage or get a house mortgage, pay my school loans, don't buy a new car until I need to. Like, that's being practical. Analytical is when you get a problem and you have to analyze it and break it down and figure out how to solve it. Like when you guys go into the adult world and you are working in a job, you may have problem solving issues that you'll have to have an issue, figure out how to solve it, or collaborate with people to create new ideas, which is where creativity can come into play. And you get new ideas and new concepts. Like when we talk about living in the 21st century, there are so many new technological advances and innovations that come our way that we are constantly having to be creative. And those are the theories of intelligence.